So the advantages and disadvantages of this build. The advantage is it's fairly easy to gear, and your main way to scale damage is going to be +2 level of spell skills or kill skills. And the other way to scale damage would be increase spell damage and increase kills damage. But because it also has so few avenues to scale your damage, it's not suited for late game farming, like farming juiced maps. So I would only use this to league start, to get to tier 15s, and then I would pivot to a different build. Another disadvantage is that your single target damage, you rely on your totems, and your totems can die very easily. For example, against Rattle Cage, he has a lot of AoE attacks, which means your totems are gonna get hit, and they are fairly squishy. Because your totems are your source of single target damage, your single target damage is gonna be very low against bosses who have high AoE attacks, like Rattle Cage or the Chimera. So your single target damage is very bad there. And another advantage of playing this build is you have a very high, basically, energy shield pool, and it's very difficult to one-shot you. Having a high energy shield pool doesn't mean that you're super tanky, because in PoE2, this build basically doesn't have any avoidance. So this is a disadvantage. It doesn't have avoidance, it doesn't use block. So any monsters that are very quick and hit very fast, basically because you have delayed damage, they will basically attack you before you can fight back. And in such scenarios, you could get overwhelmed. So your defense against these type of monsters is bad. Right, so I'm gonna go briefly over what gems you will use for leveling. First two gems that you engrave are Contagion and Frostbomb. Frostbomb has a lot of damage, but it's cooldown based. And you're gonna support Frostbomb with Spell Cascade. And what that will do is it will repeat twice, basically, to the sides. So it has a damage penalty, but because it will repeat, it will be able now to hit twice. You position it properly. This is very powerful for Frostbomb. And Frostbomb is basically going to assist with your single target. And you will also use it early on before you don't have Essence Drain to hit targets with Contagion. And Contagion is a debuff, a chaos damage over time debuff, and it will spread if an enemy that is affected by Contagion dies. This is very good for your clear. And then you're gonna get at level 6, you're gonna get Essence Drain, and you won't be using Frostbomb for clearing anymore. And the Contagion will also spread the debuff, the damage over time debuff of Essence Drain. And basically your rotation for bosses then will be, you will use Essence Drain and Frostbomb. And you will be also spamming Essence Drain, because at the beginning, the projectile, the hit damage of Essence Drain is fairly good, but later it will fall off and we will basically just scale the damage over time part. And for your Contagion, the support gems that you use are gonna be basically Unleash and Magnified Effect. Unleash will make it so you will gain seal charges with Unleash, and for each seal charge you're gonna repeat the spell that you're casting. This is gonna make it easier to hit a target affected by Contagion with Essence Drain. And then you also use Magnified Effect to increase the spread radius of your Contagion. And for your Essence Drain, early on, you use Zenith. And for Zenith, basically you get 30% more damage, while you're above 90% of your maximum mana. And because our mana cost early on is not very high, and we are not spamming our skills, we are kind of just using Contagion, Essence Drain, and then the debuffs chain from monster pack to monster pack, so we don't re-spam our skills, and it should be fairly easy to maintain your maximum mana above 90%. And then the next support gem that you can get is Swift Affliction for more damage over time. damage over time DPS. And if you have very good gear, like +2 spell skills or +2 kill skills, a lot on you, you can instead use Chain. And Chain will basically let it chain to 2 other opponents, and that makes it a lot easier to hit a target affected by Chain. And also, if the monster packs that you're dealing with are very small, like sometimes they just come in groups of 3, you don't need to cast Contagion. And it says supported skills deal 50% less damage with hits, so that won't affect the damage over time part of Essence Drain. That's why we use Chain. And then you get, from Phraphon, you get a Spirit Gem. And your first Spirit Gem and most important Spirit Gem is going to be Withering Presence. And you want to support Withering Presence with the first tier 1 support that you get is Persistence. And Withering Presence basically inflicts Withered, and Wither will increase the damage, chaos damage that your opponents take. And Withering Presence will also apply Wither in an interval. And the Wither duration is scaled by increased skill effect duration. And we get some more skill effect duration from the gem. And we also get increased skill effect duration from the tree. I'm gonna go over the passive tree later on. And yeah, so this is your setup. Essence Drain, Contagion, Frostbomb until level 31, and of course Withering Presence. At 31, you get the Despair Curse, which reduces the chaos resistance of opponents, and with that you will support Heightened Curse to increase the magnitude, as well as Decaying Hex, which will be another chaos damage over time. Chaos damage over time damage source, and it's gonna scale off your intelligence. So this was buffed. It used to be 60%, now it's 100%. And Dark Effigy, this is where your single target gets a lot better. And for Dark Effigy, you're gonna target it with Overabundance and Control Destruction, which you move from Frostbomb to the Dark Effigy. And then you can use Envenom, or you can use Execute, that's fine too. And Dark Effigy is gonna be your main source of single target damage. And what you do with Dark Effigy is you use it on single targets, and you want to apply both Contagion and Essence Drain on your single target, and that will make it so that Dark Effigy is gonna fire at a higher rate its projectiles. And for Overabundance, you will need to have increased skill effect duration. So you have these nodes, you're gonna have these nodes at that point clicked, and these, and as well as, so you path over here first. I'm gonna explain the pathing later on, and you get these increased skill effect duration. When you have these increased skill effect duration, and these two, you will socket in Overabundance. And this is basically a single target damage. And when you get your second spirit quest, you can get Convalescence. And Convalescence is basically like Wild Discipline. You can start your energy shield recharge at any time, as long as it's off cooldown. And normally it takes, if you don't scale your recharge delay, energy shield recharge delay, it takes 4 seconds after taking damage for your energy shield recharge to start. With this, you can start it on basically pressing this button, this active skill. And so it also has a buff duration, and during that buff duration, your energy shield recharge won't be interrupted by damage. And this buff duration, of course, also scales with increased skill effect duration that we get from D3. So this is really good for defensive purposes. And then later on, you can use Blink. I think at level 14 Spirit Gem. And what I do with Blink is I take it off the second weapon set. So on my first weapon set, I've following Spirit Gems, Withering Presence. It reserves 30 mana. And I also have it with 30 Spirits. Also have it supported with Clarity. So 40 in total. And Blink will reserve 60 for a total of 100. And what I do is I put Blink on the first weapon set and Convalescence on the second weapon set. So when I switch to my second weapon set, I'm not reserving Spirit for Blink, and I've excess Spirit that I can use, but my Blink is disabled and I can use the Convalescence. So every time I press the Convalescence button here, the game will switch automatically to the second weapon set where I can activate Spirit, activate Convalescence because I have enough Spirit for it. And what you also can do is put a Chiming Staff on your second weapon set. And this will basically give you more spell damage per stage. You have to spend mana to gain stages. And this basically buff or this more spell damage will also affect your totems, which count as your allies. So you basically want to place your totems in this Sigil of Power. And yeah. So for your pathing, for your early leveling pathing, you don't start over here. When you start a new character, you path these increased spell damage nodes, and you go over here, and you take these nodes, then you go over here, and you take 2 strength nodes if you want to use shield charge. So basically you save a level 3 skill gem for shield charge, and it will require 17 strength. That's why we use 2 strength nodes. And you put the shield charge on the second weapon set, and you disable it on the first weapon set, and you put all other spells on your first weapon set. So when you use shield charge, it will go to the second weapon set, and when you use your spells, you will go back to your first weapon set, where you have your plus 2 KO skills, plus spell skills, your increased spell damage. But you don't have to do this, you don't have to use shield charge if you don't want to. It's just gonna help you get faster through the campaign because it's a mobility skill. So you path these 2 strength nodes if you want. If you don't, you can just path intelligence. And then you go over here, get the increased spell damage. And then you path down here, and you get the increased skill effect duration with the increased chaos damage. And then you go up, and you take these increased chaos damage nodes. And if you want, if you have good energy shield bases, you can take these energy shield nodes. And then you start pathing upwards to the top, over here, and you get these increased chaos damage nodes. And you can also get the increased skill effect duration. You want to have this increased skill effect duration by the time you have the Overabundance support gem for the Dark Effigy. And then you can path over here to get more increased damage and the Wither effect, which will increase the chaos damage taken. And you can either start speccing into defense now. And if you spec into defense, these won't be very efficient later on. So you basically take these increased maximum energy shield nodes and you connect the tree. Early on, you don't go mana regeneration rate because you will have enough mana sustain. You go increased cast speed, connect it like this. And then you of course have these. And then you also take these nodes for more energy shield recharge. And this also makes it so that a percent value of your maximum energy shield you gain as additional stun threshold, and that will make it more difficult for opponents to build up stun, which means you will get stunned less frequently. And you can take these increase maximum energy shield nodes. Basically, I don't take a lot of increase maximum energy shield nodes up to Act 3, and in cool Act 1, I start to take these energy shield nodes. So you can go for energy shield nodes, and then you can also get over here. I would first take it over here, the faster start of energy shield, and that will make it so normally your energy shield delay is 4 seconds, and if you get the faster start of energy shield recharge, it will be reduced. You can take these nodes, and you can also take, if you want, you can get these additional stun thresholds. You find you're getting stunned a lot, very often. For example, this also has stun recovery, which means that the stun duration will be a little bit shorter. And the rest are basically just defense nodes, because we don't have that many avenues. Scale our damage apart from increased spell damage, increased kills damage, and plus 2 skills. And this I would take last, and I would go for a Falling Charm first. And then it's not absolutely necessary. I take this, like this is optional, these nodes. I take this because I want to level up and die as little as possible. So freeze usually means that there's a very high chance that I will die because a lot of monsters are probably gonna swarm you and kill you. So I wouldn't recommend allocating this for most people, and if you do allocate this, I would probably put this in last. Right, that's the passive tree. Right, and for leveling, you also constantly want to check the vendor for +2 KO skills and spell skills on your wands. And this is the main way of scaling your damage in campaign, and later on is gonna be getting +2 level of all KO spell skills, or spell skills works too. Spell skills will scale the level of all your spell skill gems, and KOs of course only for your KO spells. And this line, +2 level of all KO spell skills, you can get also on the focus, so you also want to check for focus. So every time you level up, the vendor will refresh a part of his inventory. So if you don't have any +2 kill skills or your gear is underwhelming, I would, every time you level up, I would check the vendor. And you can get this line, +2 level of all kill spell skills on your amulet. But it's very unlikely that you'll get it on the amulet. So if you don't get it, it's not a big deal. And you can also get it on the focus, but only the +2 all level of all spell skills. Kill skills can't roll on this. Your most likely scenario is going to be that you get it on your wand only. If you're lucky, you can get +1 and +2 on the focus. It's not uncommon, super uncommon, but I wouldn't count on getting this on the focus. And that's basically going to be how you get more damage in the campaign. Of course, you also want to have increased spell damage and increased kills damage, which can roll both on the focus and the wand. It can also roll on the rings, but it's very unlikely that you will get it there. It's basically the way you scale damage: kill skills plus kill skills, increased spell damage, and increased kills damage. Cast speed won't scale your damage, but it will be quality of life for Essence Drain and Contagion. Right, and I forgot to mention, you get a Lesser Jeweler's Orb at the Aura Campfire at the start of Act 3, and the first gem where you want to add a third support gem, you can either go for Essence Drain if you want your clear to be better, or you can use it on Dark Effigy to improve your single target. I would recommend doing this on Essence Drain. And for quality, the first the first gem color prism I would use is on the first gem to quality I would use on Dark Effigy. So you can hold Alt and it will show you the additional effects from quality. And in the case of Dark Effigy, you will gain chance to inflict Withered for 2 seconds on hit. And the next gem that you can quality is Withering Presence. That will increase the base duration of Withered. But Withering Presence is not, qualitying Withering Presence is not absolutely necessary. And after you have qualityed Withering Presence and Dark Effigy, I would sell Gem Cutter Prisms or just to buy better gear. You don't need to quality the other spells. For example, here it only gains +1 second to debuff duration, which is not absolutely necessary. In my case, I have a 6 second debuff duration, which should be fine. Having a higher base debuff duration would be a bit better for single target, because then I don't have to reapply the debuff as frequently, but it's not necessary. I would prioritize getting better gear. Alright, and then for your final setup, I would have basically Zenith, Swift Affliction are both tier 1s, and those are the first ones you get. And then I would, at tier 2, when you draw a tier 2 support gem, you can use Considered Casting, and it's gonna be 35% more damage, and the less cast speed is not gonna affect our DPS, because we don't really scale the hit damage part of the Essence Rain, we scale just the debuff. And Chain is gonna be Quality of Life. And the second gem where you use your Greater Jewelers is gonna be your Dark Effigy. So you have Overabundance, as previous said, and Controlled Destruction and Venom. And then you can use Execute. You can also instead use Extraction, which will gain 35% of damage as extra kills damage. But your Dark Effigies will be basically killing themselves, because they will sacrifice 10% of life. The spell skills sacrifice 10% of life on use, won't apply to you. So if you summon the totem, you won't sacrifice 10% of your life, but your totems will sacrifice their life if they start using their skills. So this is an alternative if you're fine with resummoning your totems very frequently. And I think I mentioned all the support gems in the previous one. So I have Arcane Tempo here on Contagion. This is basically quality of life. So I have a lower cast time, Guardian at 0.74, and you have 0.62. You can also use Hinder support, which will reduce the movement speed of opponents that you affect with Contagion. And other than that, you can of course get Ingenuity, because Blink is a cooldown based ability. And for example, here I have 2.36. And ignore the Bone Storm. The Bone Storm setup I will explain later when I talk about the Ascendancy. It's about the passive tree. You obviously, early on you obviously get the spell damage nodes, and later on you pivot into energy shield. And as you increase the levels of your gems, for example, in my case, I have level 29 Essence Drain, which means that the mana cost is very, very high, 273. And that's why you want to get, instead, you don't have cast speed at that point. When you have very high gem levels, you instead get mana regeneration. And even though the line here says regenerate mana equal to 6% of maximum life per second, and you don't have inherent mana regeneration, this mana regeneration will affect the regenerate mana equal to 6% of maximum life per second. So you take these nodes instead of the cast speed. And of course, these I've already gone over. This node is fairly useful because 5% of damage taken bypasses energy shield. And once you have eternal life, your life cannot change while you have energy shield. This will basically mean that these then 10% of damage taken by percentage shield are effectively damage reduction. So in total you get 15% from the tree and the Ascendancy. And if you want to basically make it so that you're less likely to get stunned, you get these additional stun threshold equal to 20% or 2% of maximum energy shield. And of course you can spec energy shield as long as you need it. And here I have more stun threshold. I would take these nodes, are one of the last ones to take, and this one I would take at the very last. And this faster start of energy shield is pretty good. For example, here it says 30% faster start of energy shield recharge when not on full life. And basically, I'm 20 life or full life. And if you want to manipulate your life pool, what you do is you use the Eldritch battery, Visage of Aya, and you equip it, and then you put back your helmet, and then you have you're missing a little bit of life. And I'm also gonna go over what other mechanics you can do to get what you can do. Basically, you can use Bone Storm with this to manipulate your life even further. You're basically gonna channel this because the line, we have a Ascendancy node that says non-channeling spells cost an additional 3% of maximum energy shield, but Bone Storm is a channeling spell, so we can actually use it. And this way we can manipulate our life to get it all the way down to low life. And then you can take advantage of low life mechanics. Right, but I don't need to. Right on the tree, and what I would recommend is basically you can get faster start of energy shield recharge through, as I've said previously, reduce the delay. And you can also get energy shield recharge rate, which will increase the recharge rate that you here see. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You can go over here to get more stun thresholds, and of course you click the increase maximum energy shield. So I don't think there's anything to really explain. So you can also take this node if you want to get more single target damage. It says gain 11% of damage as extra kills damage. Now this won't affect the damage over time part of Essence Drain, but it will affect hit damage, and our source of hit damage is gonna be Dark Effigy, so you will gain, with this you will gain quite a bit of DPS for your single target setup. And I take this to make it so that it takes longer. I take Icebreaker so that it takes longer for opponents to build up. It makes it more difficult to do freeze build up on me. And I basically, with this and a Foreign Charm, I basically have not witnessed myself being frozen. And apart from that, I don't think there's anything that I haven't covered. It's very straightforward. Faster start of energy shield. If you want the recharge delay to be lower, you can increase the regeneration recharge rate. Of course, you get increased skill effect duration, increased damage, increased kills damage, plus skills. So for the jewels, I've increased the most important stat is going to be increased maximum energy shield, and then you can get something like increased spell damage, increased kills damage, increased effect of Withered. Alright, and I'm gonna go over the Ascendancy. So your Ascendancy Order is gonna be Soulless form first. I basically, with this allocated, I don't think I ever used my Mana Flask in the campaign. Maybe when after I cursed, used my Despair and spammed totems. This is very good. It gives you a lot of mana regen. And then you can take this, and you will basically gain 15% damage reduction, but you cannot manipulate your HP anymore with your life flask while you have Energy Shield. And you can also, instead of going this first, second, you can go this if you have a very high Energy Shield base. Because there's a downside to this node. You gain 30% more damage, and spend energy shield doesn't interrupt recharge, but all your spells gain a additional cost of 3% of your maximum energy shield. So when you don't have any energy shield, you cannot cast any spells. This is why it's important that you get faster start of energy shield recharge rate, and you have a high ES pool when you do take this. For most people, I'm going to recommend to take these nodes first, these two, and then go this. But if you're very confident in your ability to not get your energy shield reduced down to 0, you can take this after Souless form, and you will gain 30% more damage, which is going to be very nice. And your last point is going to be this basically crystal line. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it basically allows you to gives you an additional jewel socket and increased effect of the socket of the jewel. And I put in increased maximum energy shield, so I have 40% increased maximum energy shield. And you can, as previously mentioned, you can get increased spell damage, increased kills damage. Cast speed is not particularly useful, but I don't have a better jewel because I'm playing in the Soul Cell font. I'm gonna go gearing. So, previously mentioned, to scale your damage, you want to get +2 kill spell skills when you want. And you can get, this value can go all the way up to +5. I think for +5 you will need a item level 81 once. So it's gonna be a very late game that you get these type of ones, and you're probably gonna craft them and not actually drop them. But +4 is absolutely sufficient. And of course you want increased spell damage, increased kill damage, and increased cast speed would be very good quality of life. And you get this, you get +2, you can get all the way up to +2 on your focus. And of course you can also get increased spell damage, increased kills damage. And of course your focus can also roll resistances and increase maximum energy shield. And then you also want to have +2 spell skills on your amulet. It goes all the way up to +3. If you can't afford a +3 to spell skills, you can also go for projector skills. It's almost the same in terms of DPS output, in terms of increasing the DPS output of this character, because the +2 level of all projector skills will affect the Essence Drain. This is our main clearing ability. Essence Drain has the tag projectile, and it will also affect the Dark Effigy because it also has the tag projectile. So +2 projectile skills is also fine. If it's gonna be much cheaper, I will buy +2 level of all projectile skills. And for your energy bases, a lot of people ask me, how do I have +10 KES? And basically, you want to have your main source of energy shield is gonna be your chest. So I have 810, which is kind of very high. I'm gonna try to see if I have my old chest I can show. So I used to have something like this. I think I had 600 for a very long time. Basically, you want to use a vile rope as a base. And what I did in maps is basically I picked up every vile rope, normal, magic, rarity, doesn't matter. You pick them all up. If it's normal, you transmute it, augment. If it gets a very high increased energy shield modifier, or a very high to maximum energy shield modifier, or a very high hybrid to maximum and increased energy shield modifier. You regal it. If it doesn't, you keep it. And then you can use the Reforge bench. And you get, for example, 3 of these. They have to be the same rarity. And then you can reforge this. And then you will get a new, brand new magic rarity wire rope that is unidentified. And then you can see what stat it has. And you can do this with any rarity, with magic and rare. And basically you want to craft your wire rope this way. And you get very high value. Of course, you socket it with artificial orbs, and you put iron runes, which will further increase the energy shield value. And then you can get something like this with 800 energy shield. And in my case, let's see how much energy shield I gained from 800. So it's almost half. It's a little bit more than half of my energy shield base. This chest alone. And of course, you can get the second highest energy shield base is probably gonna be your helmet. And for the helmet, you also have this node here, which gives a fair bit of energy shield. And of course, on the passive tree, we have a lot of increased maximum energy shield that will assist. For some reason, these values are really high. They have reduced, they have nerfed a lot of things about casters, but they haven't touched increased maximum energy shield. I have no idea why. And so yeah, you basically get a good chest, a good helmet, and your gloves and boots can also have fairly decent values, and then it should be reasonable to hit 10,000. Of course, you also get your jewels, your increased maximum energy shield from your jewels. I have here something 14, 13, and 20, of course. And you also get from the Ascendancy passive points, you get 40% here. You end up with very high values of energy shield. In my case, 11,810. And yeah, basically the other meta builds can't do this. This is our huge advantage. And for your gear, for your rings, very important is you can get very high values of cast speed. For some reason, increased cast speed is very high, and what I would recommend is, I don't know if I have, yeah, you have one of these, the Essence of Sorcery. You can get these essences even in the campaign, and basically this will guarantee one caster modifier. And on the rings, there's only one caster modifier that can roll, so increased cast speed. So you can use these type of essences on normal rings that you find. You augment them, regal, exalt, if they have good mods on the augment and regal, and you get something like this with increased cast speed. Now it won't improve the DPS of your essence rain as previously mentioned, but it's great quality of life. So you're not like kind of locked into place for too long because your cast time is very high. If I hadn't had any cast speed, I would probably have a cast time of around 0.9 seconds to 1 second. That would be very uncomfortable to play. So I recommend getting cast speed on your rings. Other than that, you can get, because you fill your resistances, get mana regeneration rate is very good too. And I have, for example, rarity on this to improve the loot drops, because right now without it, I don't really get really good loot. And yeah, one very important stat not neglect is chaos resistance. And I have too little. This is something that I'm currently working on. I've played a lot, but somehow I still haven't found a lot of chaos res gear. Actually, I only have found this that was fairly decent. And the reason why we need chaos res, high chaos res, is because chaos damage will deal double damage to energy shield. We really want to have high chaos res, and a lot of people ask me, why do you not go chaos inoculation, become immune to chaos damage? Well, it has the line maximum life is 1, and if we click this node, our mana regeneration is based on our life, and if we only have 1 life, of course, we have no mana regeneration, so you don't want to click Chaos Inoculation to deal with the chaos damage problem. And let me think if I've gotten something. Yeah, and a very good unique, a starter unique is the Wave Shaper, or whatever it's called, chest. So if you can't get like a 600 ES chest with decent-ish suffixes, I would get one of these. And this is a very good chest because it has the line increases and reductions to mana regeneration rate also apply to energy shield recharge rate. So you don't have to click energy shield recharge rate nodes with this chest. And it also gives you spirit and quite a bit of resistances. And if you put some iron runes on there and quality it up, you can get very high energy shield value base, energy shield values. This is a very good chest, and I think it's also very cheap. I'm not aware of the prices constantly because I play in SSF. So, and for your helmet slots, you can get the Adzeris Disdain. I don't have a Adzeris Disdain that I can showcase, but basically it has the line 10% of the damage taken bypasses energy shield, which in our case is gonna be damage reduction. And also you gain a percent value of your maximum life as energy shield. So this Adzeris Disdain helmet is very good for you. I don't have it right now because, well, I play SSF and I haven't found it so far. So those are 2 good uniques, and there's also a boot that you could use. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, I don't have it. That basically, if you are while low life, you gain 50% increased rarity. You could also use that one. But I think having 30% increased movement speed boots is gonna be better. Right, that was it. Thank you for watching.